Language limits the way that we see the world, and yet, as human beings, we quite frankly have no other way of comprehending this vast universe of ours. We have all of this complex aspects of the human condition, all of these internal states and unique individual experiences. And to convey those ideas, we do need that language, we do need that shorthand. And yet, what our brains do, just as a consequence of having a language, it siphons down all of this very unique experience into these small, tiny words. Our whole perception just condenses down into a single concept. And the study of communication, what it does is it unveils the mechanisms, this way of how we interpret our worlds, our making of meaning and understanding. It reveals this personal lens and reveals this personal lens in the way we think about absolute truth. It reframes our view of ourselves, our ability to communicate with others, perhaps even reality itself. And personally, this expedition through all of languages, the way that language functions, it reoriented my idea of how I learned to communicate with others and how I understand others. If I truly went and understood other socio-cultural lens, I might be able to explain myself better, to be truly understood. And at the end of the day, I think we all want a little bit of understanding, especially nowadays. And so this symbolic language of ours, this language, this symbolic shorthand of ours, it is a personalized socio-cultural lens, and it leads to differences in interpreted meaning. Awareness of this and how it works allows people to cater their words to their audience, bridging that gap between speaking and this shared meaning that we all hope to, most of us hope to embody, to achieve. Communication reflects the world, and the world is so vast and complicated, and our human minds can't hope to grasp all of those different intricacies in that complex web that is the universe. And my tablet turned off. And that is why we have communication models. Especially models of communication. Communication is very complicated. We have the transaction model. The transaction model, basically what it is you have two people. The people in that situation, they have their purpose for what they want to achieve out of that conversation, and they try to talk about stuff, and the person who's listening at the time will filter in what the other person's speech is through different situational, physical, cultural, and social aspects, and together as they speak, they create that shared meaning. It's very similar to me as an artist of words and sketch. That art is just another form of communication. Art is more tangible. So when an artist creates an art piece, that artist's pure experience, all the observations and the work and the just life that went into making that piece, the soul of it, one might say, the observer that views that art will never get exactly that same meaning just because they never lived that life, nor did they go through the creation process itself. But they do get their own meaning from seeing that art. They attribute their own meaning to it. And through that way, you're able to communicate this idea so abstract, or not even abstract, you're able to convey this idea so, what is it called? What is the word? You're able to convey that idea so impactful and personal, but in that way you didn't convey the exact same meaning. Communication is different, the way we speak with these words. The meaning that we're trying to convey, it's a dialogue. It goes both ways. You, as someone who's communicating with someone else, you are both the artist and the observer. And as you speak, you're just trying to find that shared meaning between the words, and it can create differences. For example, a little while ago, I realized I correct people. I mean, I knew I corrected people, but the way I look at it is I say, okay, I love learning. I love the ability to dispel some confusion, to finally get past that hurdle of confusion and just understand something, and it's brilliant to me and I love it. So I want to give that to someone else. If someone else is confused or understands something they think is wrong and they would have to go through that process of unlearning it, I want them to be able to understand, and so then I go and correct them. For example, my a family member of mine was talking about something relating to Eastern medicine, and I had read a lot about it from sources that I think are credible, and I still believe are credible. And so I know that it tends to get appropriated and misquoted quite a bit, and I thought that this family member of mine was misquoting it. and confused about it because two different sources were competing. And I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and I'll dispel this confusion by explaining it. I sounded condescending. Why? Because I am a younger person talking to an older person, and that's disrespectful. So it's condescending and it's rude. I didn't know this, and I didn't know this until if I had just used the model. I now have a model of communication. I can look at it and say, oh my gosh, wait a minute. I didn't take her viewpoints into account. I didn't understand that she was looking at it through a completely different lens than I was, and that's where the miscommunication arose. And along those lines, why do these miscommunications happen in the first place? Because unlike art, even though miscommunications can happen in art, even though that's miscommunication about the art typically, language is utterly symbolic and abstract. These words that we use, they cannot fully encapsulate the lived experience that we go through. Because of the experience that we live, because of its transience, we cannot transfer every sensory event in our eternal state. And so we can just do our best to recreate it based on these agreed upon symbols that we have, these words. These words they're an umbrella. They refer to so much more than just what we're trying to refer to, that meaning, the specific meaning that we have. So we have to use a lot of words. If you can't tell, I'm a very wordy person. The issue with how we use the words is because the way we learn this meaning of what each word means is it's entirely individual. We all have our own unique experiences in our process of learning language. So when we use a word, they symbolize slightly different things to each person. For example, cat, pet. Someone else would use the word cat or pet, and before I would understand it as, okay, the creature you live with, you love the creature, you have this bond. I don't know exactly how that works. It sounds nice though. My thing ran out again, I'm so sorry. And then I got cats, two precious little babies of mine, and I understand now. There's so much love and joy in just the way that they play with each other like little kids, and the way they look at you with so much interest in their eyes, and the way that they'll come over and rub against your legs and they'll purr, and they're just so loving. And I did not understand that before. Let me find my place, hold on. The word pet now to me symbolizes so much more joy and love, and I don't even think the version of me from the past would quite understand what I mean when I say that same word, the same word of pet. And now, just imagine the vast array of different human experiences. Of course, people are not going to entirely agree. And how do we create these lenses in the first place? It's through society and culture. The only issue with this is that we tend to take all of our culture's connotation for what a particular word means and just ascribe a specific word to whatever the culture says that word means. That's what we think it means. This can lead to a lot of stereotyping, but it can also lead to looking at how that society functions just through the way they speak and the phrases that they use. Translations are especially interesting. For example, in my mother tongue, we don't have a phrase for have a nice day. It's because religion is so ingrained in how the culture works. It's always God willing or may God bless you instead. This reflects the difference in perspectives between cultures. One culture where they say have a nice day reflects the idea that actions and circumstances are going to determine how your day goes, whereas the other culture says that it's someone's religion that determines someone's religion, meaning like the way how they're religious, whether God shows them good graces or not, that determines whether they have a good day or not. No, I'm not gonna try, I'm sorry. Okay. Essentially, language is extremely understated in importance because we use it so casually so often, but in actuality, it's just this super complex web that shows us so much about how we understand the world, about ourselves, about society, culture. It is a filter through how we see the world. Each person creates this meaning, and they try to has this meaning inside. They try to share it as close as possible, and can basically transfer this inner state and understanding to this other person. And the filters that this other person uses through their own this social interpretation, this cultural lens, warps that meaning. And it's just the nature of using a symbolic word rooted in personal experience as a conduit for the hope we hope to convey. And with an understanding, the hope is that with an understanding of how these mechanisms work, we can look at our interactions, monitor our interactions, and we can see how our perceptions of ourselves, of reality, shifts with the words that we say. And honestly, it is difficult to understand, for me at least, it's difficult to understand exactly how It's difficult to understand exactly how small and warped our perception truly is until we see the stage that it dances on. That's a cringe line, but communication gives you a bird's eye perspective of just life itself. It's interesting. Thank you.